Welcome to LSAT Demon Daily. My name is Stefan. I'm a tutor and writer here at LSAT Demon. Joining me is Mikey, who is also a tutor amongst other
Yeah,
roles here.
tutor, teacher, ask button a little bit. Yeah, long time listener, first time caller, I guess, man. I'm excited to be here.
Hell yeah, man! Happy to have you. And we're both law students. I feel like that's worth mentioning.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. We are, if you are applying to law school, you're looking at your future right here. And we're unintentionally matching, I'm realizing right now.
Yeah, I
But
noticed that. Same hoodies.
gray sweatshirts. But yeah, I'm a 2L at GW Law in DC. And Stefan, you're at UT, correct? 1L?
Yeah. I'm at UT Austin. I'm a 1L, so it's November. I'm in the thick of it. So yeah.
Grind time, but we're going to take some time today to talk about how to help you guys in your grind for to get to this grind, to get to the next grind, I guess. So
Exactly.
let's get into
Exactly.
it. So today we're going to talk a little bit about blind reviewing, but not our blind reviewing.
Right.
So yeah, so basically, other prep companies, Seven Sage in particular, has this system where they want to give you your regular score and a blind review score. So you take your practice test. My understanding of it, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Stefan, is like you take your practice test, you get what you get, and then you just go through and take it again untimed and get like a second score. And the idea is you're supposed to get some sort of value out of that because you like could get it right the second time around, or maybe you got it wrong the second time around. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that, Stefan, as a means of studying?
My thoughts are that it is of absolutely zero value. Um, I just think that's just the cold hard truth. There's value to doing untimed practice, and that's why we have drilling, and that's why we solve one question at a time. But in the sense of doing untimed practice and then attributing a 120 to 180 score based off of that untimed practice, I mean, it means close to nothing. I'd go as far to say it means absolutely nothing. And then in the sense of already attempting questions that you already did one time and going and attempting those questions the second time around, it's like, okay, well, you were down to a 50-50. You picked the wrong answer, so you're just gonna pick the other one that you were deciding between.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so I want to like separate here. Like for one, I totally agree with you, right? I think if you go through a practice test and you sit down and you do it timed and you do it the right way and you get, a 160 or a 150, and then you just sit down and take that same practice test again with no time limitations, or frankly with time limitations, but now having seen all the questions and suddenly get a 175 or a 180, like you didn't accomplish anything. Like your score did
Right.
not increase. You did not learn anything about your ability because exactly like you said, you know which ones you got wrong. You just choose the other 50-50. There is immense value in going and redoing the questions that you got wrong and some value in redoing the ones you got right if you didn't understand them. But the value isn't your ability to get them right. The value is your ability to learn from them. So like I guess I'd love to break down like what LSAT demon, the demon method of blind review is, and how we think you should be reviewing questions.
Ye yeah, absolutely. So basically, when you're doing time practice in the Demon, whether that's a full-length practice test or a time section, and if you're doing it the Demon way, we're prioritizing accuracy over speed. So let's say you sit down to do a section of logical reasoning, 35-minute standard section. You go and attempt 15 questions, guess on all the rest. Timer runs out, submit your time section, and you get a score. If you're doing it the right way, hopefully you just got a 100% accuracy score, 15 out of 15. Guessed on the remaining ones, get 1 out of 5 guesses, maybe on average, maybe a little bit lucky, 16, 17 out of 25, right? So that's your final score, hopefully a goal score of 100% accuracy. Now, blind review, the way that we do it is out of the ones that you attempted, if there is one that you got incorrect, yes, 100% go back to that question because now it is your job to thoroughly review that question. And that's just a standard review process, right? Like go ahead and attempt that question again, but you're going to sit there and figure out, why did I pick the wrong answer? Why did I fail to pick the right answer? And that is sort of like that blind review process. But we're not then attributing any sort of metric to it. Like yes, you probably should get it right the second time around, but just because you get that question right the second time around, by no means by no means means that you have reviewed that question and now you're good to move on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like the my least favorite thing I hear from students is like, I'm always getting it right the second try. Like, all right,
Well,
or
yeah,
like
I
I'm
hope
always
so.
picking the second most popular answer, or
Right.
it's always the one that I was considering. It's like, okay, like you're pretty much just being like, I always don't understand the questions I get wrong. Like, yeah, I bet, you know? So I guess like my way of looking at it is if you're in those situations, like make sure that when you are on blind review and you're going back and doing the demon way of blind review, you go back and instead of just being like, oh, it's the one that, it's the other one I was considering and clicking on it, go back, read through the whole question again and ask and try and put yourself in a situation where you're not in a 50-50, not because you just know which one was wrong, but because suddenly you can identify the wrong answer you picked as wrong for a reason, right? You can
Yes.
identify what you were missing. And then once you can eliminate that answer, and then you can say, okay, I now see why that other one I was 50-50 on is correct, right? For an actual reason. And maybe you do, and maybe you don't on blind review. But then after putting in that effort without knowing what the answer is or without seeing the explanation, then we can hop into the explanation, read through it there, and want you to lock in like, why did I get it wrong? And why did I choose a wrong answer and what did I miss about the right answer? And then watch the video and then maybe, hit the ask button, like spend immense time on that question. But just going through and being like, it was that other one, you know what I mean? Or going through and doing the whole test again and just like nailing the ones you missed because it was your other coin flip, not really doing it for you, I don't think. I don't think that's yeah. I think if anything it's gaslighting you into thinking that you're further ahead than you are because suddenly you're thinking that these wrong answers, that these questions you're getting wrong, like oh you were close on them, so then you have some sort of like,
Right.
you're almost there, but in reality you misunderstood those questions. Those were questions you misunderstood, whether like somebody who was 50-50 between a wrong answer and right answer and 50-50 between two wrong answers, those people equally do not understand that question. Like I think that's my takeaway.
Yes, absolutely. I completely agree with you. I think it's worth doubling down on that idea so our listeners really understand. I think these other prep companies that are allowing students to believe that progress, air quotes, whatever progress they think they're making in blind review is worthwhile is truly a disservice to those students. I,
So
I,
true.
I
Yeah.
yeah, I just don't think it's valuable. It's a valuable metric, and it's not a valuable way to study. And I think it's worth mentioning that I don't know, maybe blind review has become sort of like this buzzword in the LSAT space, and
Right.
we use blind review too, right? But I think our approach is much simpler in the sense that when you blind review, that process is no different than when you're drilling and when you get a question wrong. It's the same exact process, right? The only difference is that you might have done a section full of questions compared to drilling one individual question, but it's the same thing. Once you're done with that individual question or once you're done with that individual section, you stop, you go back to the ones that you missed, and you review thoroughly. That is blind review.
Yeah, 100%. I think you put it so well there of there should be no difference between when you do a time section and you get one wrong and review it blindly and when you're drilling, right? Like when you drill and you get one wrong, you stop, you reread the question, you reread the answer choices, you rethink your entire kind of process, and that's how you learn. That's where progress comes from. And yeah, the people who are kind of plateauing on the LSAT and not seeing any progress, I think it's because they're not doing that because they're letting themselves off easy on those wrong answers by
Yes.
being like, "Oh, it was the other one I would have chosen." Like, and just kind of breezing through that way, or "Oh, I'm so good on blind review."
Yeah,
That
yeah, they're not digging deep enough. They're not digging deep enough. Now, Mikey, I think it's also worth at least covering. I feel like a lot of students, when they do a section and they do it the demon way, they prioritize accuracy over speed. There still might be some genuine questions of, okay, I finished a section, I prioritized accuracy over speed, I did my job. Maybe I attempted 12 questions, got an 11 out of 12 accuracy rating, right? That's fantastic. That's what you should be doing, right? Um, and then they have a entire question set staring at them in the face of unattempted questions in your experience or when you were early on in your LSAT studying, how do you think you approach that sort of blind review with the questions that you didn't necessarily get to?
Same way. I mean, I would just, you know what I mean? I think I would, how I used to study was I would do a time section. Um, maybe I got to 15. My rule was always I don't go to the next question until I'm, sure about this one. I
Right.
really like was married to the demon way. And I would, once I was done with the section, I would just, before I even reviewed the ones I might have gotten wrong out of attempted, so if I missed one or two, I would just go through and the same way, I would just try all those other questions. I don't think like the timing matters. I think you could review first if you wanted, but
Sure.
the methodology for me is the same is you now have all these questions that you can learn from and practice on. Like this is a skill. Getting reps in is going to help you get better at that skill. So for me, it's like I had all those extra questions. Like I would just sit down and do them and take all the time I needed on them because whether or not the clock was on, my approach was the same.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. I think my approach was a little bit different, and the reason why I want to point this out, not vastly different, but when I was early on in my studies, I got the advice from a demon teacher. I was attempting like 10 questions in a section,
Yeah,
11,
yeah.
11 questions in a section. And I was prioritizing accuracy over speed, but I still had 12 through 25 staring at me in the face. And I would spend a lot of energy and a lot of time reviewing any questions that I missed. And by the time I reviewed those questions, going on to attempt the remaining questions in a section, that's quite a lot. And that the difficulty level was probably higher than where my skills were currently at. I found that process to be a bit daunting. So I totally hear what you're saying. I just want to offer in the sense that like it's totally cool if you just want to put those questions away for another time and
Oh
just
yeah.
toggle on that section to the drilling category and just get to those questions whenever you get to those questions. Whether that's you see them in drilling or later on in your LSAT journey when you're going to be a lot better and you attempt that section again, which there's nothing wrong with that, by the way, you will naturally probably get to more of those questions that you didn't see the first time around, but you will be better equipped to answer those questions.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think especially for those people who are earlier on and maybe you're only doing the first 10, like definitely saving them for later is an
Right.
awesome means. I think I my point if I is more like you like those questions are there for you, right? Like
For sure.
eventually, whether it's right now or later on, like you got those. And that's a great point, Stefan. I'm happy you brought that up because like you don't have to do those hard ones. And I think that's a big part of like the LSAT in general is like do the questions you're ready for, right? Like it's not one of those things where doing the hardest questions like helps you on the easy ones. It is like you kind of got to lift the lightweights before you could lift the heavyweights. But
Yeah, for sure. Get the lower hanging fruit first,
yeah,
right? And build your foundation.
yeah.
And
But
in due time, you'll get to those questions.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah. I think that's all I got on blind review. I just don't think it's I think you're wasting your time and I think you might be giving yourself a bad metric. Stick to the demon method, review the questions you get wrong thoroughly and yeah, and I think that's the way to progress. Don't gaslight yourself into thinking that you're somewhere you're not just cuz you're getting 50-50 on a hard question and flipping the wrong coin.
Absolutely. I don't think I could have said it better myself. All right.
Cool.
Well, email daily at lsatdemon.com if you have any LSAT or law school admissions questions. Thanks for listening.